Smoke filled the red sky. The alien moon called Z-Trax 4 was a place of war. Explosions shook the ground. Laser beams burned through the air. The soil was black with ashes and blood. Among the ruins stood Thalira, a warrior of the Kharal Empire. Her silver armor was cracked. One arm was bleeding. Her face was covered in dirt, but her eyes were still sharp, like a lion that refused to fall. All her teammates were gone. Every soldier in her squad was either dead or missing. She stood alone on the battlefield, surrounded by fallen machines and smoking debris. The humans had fought well. She never expected it. "They're supposed to be weak," she whispered, falling to one knee. "But they surprised us." A sharp pain shot through her chest. She looked down. One of the human drones had hit her with a plasma bolt. It had gone through her side. She coughed, and a bit of blue blood came from her lips. She dropped her weapon. Her hand trembled. Thalira wasn't scared. She was a warrior since birth. She had trained for death. She had been ready since the first day she held a blade, and now it had come. She collapsed on her back, staring at the darkening sky. The sounds of battle slowly faded. She could hear the wind. She closed her eyes and whispered her last words. "I die with honor," but death never came. Softness. That was the first thing she felt, not the cold ground, but warmth. Something soft was beneath her body. Something smooth touched her skin. Her eyes opened suddenly. She was not in the battlefield. She was inside a room, clean, quiet, with light coming through a window. There were strange things around her. Furniture, walls painted in a pale color, and something warm on top of her. A blanket. She gasped and sat up fast. Her heart raced. Where am I? Her armor was gone. Her wounds were bandaged. Her left arm had strange strips on it, medical tape. She looked around, trying to stand, but her legs were weak. Just then the door opened, and a human walked in. A man, tall, with short brown hair and soft eyes. He held a tray with a bowl and a spoon. He looked surprised to see her awake. "You're up?" he said gently. "That's good." Thalira's eyes narrowed. Her first instinct was to attack. Her hand reached for a weapon, but there was nothing near her. "Who are you?" she hissed. "Where am I?" The human set the tray down slowly. "My name's Ryan. You're safe. I found you near the edge of the forest, in some kind of escape pod. You were bleeding bad. I brought you home." She didn't speak. Her eyes scanned every corner of the room. No cameras, no traps, just a simple human home. "I patched you up," he continued. "Took your armor off to treat the wounds. Sorry if that's weird, you were dying." Thalira clenched her jaw. "You should have let me die." Ryan tilted his head. "Yeah, well, I don't let people die, alien or not." He picked up the bowl. "You need food, it's just soup, won't kill you." She didn't move. Ryan placed it near her, then stepped back. "Eat when you're ready." He turned and left the room quietly. Thalira stared at the food. She didn't understand. Humans were enemies. They were supposed to be cruel, greedy, full of tricks. That's what the Kharal Empire taught her. But this one saved her? Why? She looked down at her bandaged arm. The pain was still there, but the bleeding had stopped. He didn't hurt her. He didn't even lock the door. She stared at the soup. After a long pause, she picked up the spoon. One slow sip. Warm. Her eyes widened slightly. It felt nice. She lowered the spoon and whispered to herself, "What kind of enemy heals the one sent to kill him?" Outside the door, Ryan stood quietly, listening, wondering who or what he had just saved and what was coming next. The morning sunlight touched Thalira's alien skin. She sat up slowly in the soft bed, her senses sharp now. Her injuries still ached, but her warrior mind was already searching for answers. Who was this human? Why had he helped her? She looked around again. There were no weapons, no guards, no cameras. Oh, just a peaceful human house. Too quiet, too soft, too gentle for someone like her. The Lyra was trained in fire, blood, and silence. But this place had colors, warmth, and the smell of something cooking. She stood up, shaky on her feet. The loose human clothes Ryan had left for her didn't fit well, but they covered her. She moved through the small hallway like a silent predator, her sharp eyes scanning every corner. Suddenly, she heard humming. She stopped. There, in the kitchen, was the human man, Ryan. He was cooking eggs. He turned and saw her standing there. "Oh, you're up. Feeling better?" he asked with a soft smile. She didn't answer. Her eyes stayed on his hands. No weapons. Just a frying pan. "You walked all the way here?" he said, impressed. "You must be healing fast." She stepped closer, careful and slow. "Why are you helping me?" Ryan shrugged. "Didn't seem right to leave someone dying in the forest. You were barely breathing." "I am Karal," she said. "Your enemy. You should have finished me." Ryan turned off the stove and placed the eggs on a plate. "Maybe," he said, walking to the small wooden table. "But I saw someone hurt. Not an enemy. Just someone." The Lyra sat across from him, staring. "You don't fear me?" she asked. Ryan smiled. "Oh, I'm terrified, but you haven't tried to kill me yet, so I figured that's a good sign." She raised an eyebrow. "You are strange." He laughed a little. "You wouldn't be the first to say that." She looked at the food in front of her. It smelled warm, rich, strange but inviting. She hadn't eaten real food in days. The Lyra picked up the fork carefully, clumsy with human tools. She brought a piece of the food to her mouth and chewed slowly. It was good. Too good. Her eyes widened just slightly. Ryan noticed. "Not bad, huh?" She didn't reply, but her silence said enough. Later, Ryan gave her a tour of the small house. It was simple. Old furniture, soft chairs, a quiet garden outside with colorful plants. "You live here alone?" she asked. "Yeah," he replied. "Got tired of the cities. Too much noise. This place gives me peace." "You are a soldier?" "Used to be. Not anymore. Left all that behind." She walked slowly through the garden, touching a flower like it was a strange creature. "In the Empire, peace is weakness." Ryan looked at her, thoughtful. "Then maybe your empire needs to learn better." She turned to him sharply. "Careful. You insult my people. And your people tried to destroy mine." They stood there, in silence. But there was no hate in their eyes, just a strange understanding. That night, Ryan gave her a blanket and a place to sleep on the couch. She refused at first. She didn't want comfort. She was a warrior, but her body was tired. Healing. He went to his room, and the house became quiet again. The Lyra lay there, staring at the ceiling. Her thoughts were loud. Why did this human help her? Why did he treat her like a person, not like a beast, not like a threat? She looked at her bandaged arm again. His hands had done that. Carefully, gently. No human had ever touched her without violence before. She closed her eyes, whispering to herself, "I don't understand him." And that's what makes it dangerous. Outside, something moved in the darkness. A faint red light blinked near the forest line, and far away in space a signal was received by a Karal warship. The Lyra's location had been found. But she didn't know that yet. Not tonight. Tonight, for the first time in her life. The warrior felt safe. The mirror didn't lie. The Lyra stood still, staring at her reflection. It was early morning. The house was quiet, and Ryan was outside working on something. She had found the bathroom mirror, and couldn't look away. For the first time, she wasn't wearing her armor. For the first time, she saw her true self. blue skin, scars across her arms, a strange glow behind her alien eyes, and bandages placed by human hands. She reached up and touched her cheek. It was soft, not the face of a soldier anymore, not completely. Her fingers slid down to a faint scar under her neck, one she got during her first battle. She used to wear it like a badge. Now it felt like something from another life, a distant, fading war. She whispered, "Who am I now?" In the kitchen, the radio played soft human music. Ryan cooked again, this time humming along. The air smelled of toast and something sweet. Thalira entered the room slowly. She wasn't limping anymore. Her movements were stronger now, but quieter too. Not like a warrior walking into a battlefield. More like a guest, unsure of her welcome. Ryan looked up. "Good morning." She nodded. He poured coffee and placed it near her. "I've only got human food, hope that's okay." She sat. "It's strange, but not bad." He smiled. "You're healing fast." "I should not be here," she said suddenly, eyes sharp. "I was trained to destroy humans, not eat breakfast with them." Ryan leaned back in his chair. "Then maybe someone needs to retrain you." She raised an eyebrow. "You think you can do that?" "No," he said, "but this world might." She stared at him. He wasn't a soldier. Not anymore. He wore simple clothes, spoke softly, and didn't flinch even when she looked dangerous. "What do you see?" she asked. "When you look at me." He paused. "Someone who's hurting," he finally replied. "Someone who wants to be strong all the time, but maybe is tired of being strong." That hit something deep inside her, and she didn't know why. Later that day, Thalira sat in the small garden again. She watched a butterfly land on a yellow flower. In Kharal culture, such moments didn't exist. There were no flowers, no butterflies, just metal, training, and warships. But here, life moved gently. Ryan came out with 2 mugs of tea. "You don't talk much about your people," he said, sitting beside her. "They wouldn't talk to you either," she replied. "Why?" "They believe humans are weak, emotional, unstable," he smirked. "They're not wrong about the emotional part." She looked at him. "You joke too much." "That's how we survive," he said. "Humans smile even when they're breaking inside." She blinked, confused. "Why would anyone do that?" "Because it gives hope to others." She grew quiet. The warrior inside her didn't know what to say to that. But something in her chest felt warm. That night, a storm rolled in. Rain tapped against the windows and thunder cracked in the sky. Thalira stood at the door, watching the water fall. She had never seen rain before. On her world, the sky was black and dry. Here, everything was alive. Ryan came to her side, holding a blanket. "It's cold out there." She didn't move. He placed the blanket around her shoulders. She let him. Silence sat between them for a while. Comfortable, like 2 strangers becoming something else. Then she whispered, "Your kindness. It confuses me." Ryan didn't answer right away. Then he said, "Sometimes the people who've been through the most need kindness the most." She looked at him, and for the first time, her lips moved into a very small, almost invisible smile, not as a warrior, but as someone finally being seen. Far beyond Earth, in the deep black space, another Kharal ship received Thalira's old signal. The commander stared at the screen. "She's still alive," he said coldly. Another voice replied, "And she is not alone." They prepared for descent, but they didn't know. She wasn't the same Thalira anymore. The wind had changed. Thalira felt it first, not with her skin but with her warrior's instincts. The air around Ryan's house, once calm and full of life, now felt wrong. She stepped into the garden barefoot, eyes narrowed, senses alert. Somewhere, something was watching her. Inside, Ryan was fixing an old radio. He smiled when he saw her standing at the door. "Could be rain again," he said, not looking up. Storm clouds are back. But Thalera wasn't looking at the sky. Her hand, slowly, reached for the sharp metal rod leaning near the porch. Old instinct. Ryan, she said firmly. Get inside, lock the doors. He stood confused. What's wrong? They've found me. That night the world went quiet. Too quiet. Even the birds had stopped singing. Thalera stood at the window staring into the darkness. Her heart beat like a drum, steady but faster than usual. Her warrior blood knew this silence. This was the silence before a kill. Ryan walked in, holding a flashlight. Still think someone's out there? She nodded. It's not just someone, it's a corral hunter. They track deserters. I was one of their top fighters. My failure is a stain on their pride. Deserter? Ryan repeated. She finally looked at him. I didn't choose to escape. My ship was hit. I was dying. But now, I've lived too long. I've grown soft. That makes me a traitor. Ryan crossed his arms. You're not soft. You're healing. That's different. She said nothing. She didn't know how to explain that this softness was both her greatest fear and her deepest desire. Midnight struck. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed across the trees. The lights flickered. The dog barked madly outside. Ryan ran to the window. That came from the forest. Thalera grabbed the sharp rod and pushed past him. I'll handle this. No, he said firmly. Not alone. She turned, surprised. You can't fight a crawl. I don't care. You helped me believe in something again. I won't let you fight alone. There was no time to argue. She handed him a long pipe. Stay close. Move only when I say. Together, they stepped into the dark woods. The forest was a maze of shadows. Red light blinked between the trees. Mechanical clicking filled the air. Then came the voice. Deep, cold, metallic. Thalera of House Zor. You are marked. Return now, or be destroyed. Thalera's grip tightened. She stepped forward. Come out, Greythak. I recognize your voice. From the shadows, a figure emerged. 7 feet tall, armor like black bone. A glowing red eye in the middle of his helmet. Greythak, the hunter. One of the Empire's deadliest. Ryan whispered, What the hell is that? Trouble, she replied. Greythak laughed a cruel, sharp sound. You were once a legend, Thalera. Now you hide with insects. I'm not hiding, she said. I'm learning. You were built for war. Now you sleep in blankets and sip tea. You wouldn't understand, she said. Greythak raised his plasma blade. I don't need to understand. I need your head, he charged. Thalera blocked his first strike with the metal rod, sparks flying. Ryan ducked behind a tree as fire lit the night. The battle was fast, brutal. Metal crashed against metal. The ground shook under their feet, but Thalera was weaker than before. Not because she was soft, but because she didn't want to kill anymore. Greythak knocked her to the ground. Goodbye, traitor. Just as he raised his blade, Ryan ran forward and slammed the pipe into the back of Greythak's armor. Greythak turned, shocked. A human? Thalera used the moment she rolled, grabbed a sharp rock and stabbed it into Greythak's neck joint. A burst of black energy exploded. He fell back, roaring, then vanished into red sparks, dead or retreated. Either way, gone. Thalera collapsed to her knees, breathing hard. Ryan ran to her, grabbing her shoulders. You okay? She nodded slowly. You distracted him. You saved me first, he said. I returned the favor. They stared at each other, their hands bloody, their hearts pounding. Something had changed between them. Not just respect, not just trust, something more. Back at the house, she washed the blood from her face. She looked into the mirror again. Not the same reflection anymore. For the first time, she didn't see a soldier. She saw a woman, a survivor, a protector, and maybe, just maybe, someone learning to love. Blood was on his shirt. Ryan stumbled into the house, his hand pressed tightly against his side. His breathing was shallow, his face pale. Thalira slammed the door shut behind him, locking it fast. "Sit down," she ordered, voice sharp, but her eyes full of fear. He tried to laugh. "Guess I'm not built for alien fights." Then he collapsed. She caught him before he hit the ground. His body was heavy in her arms. Her hands trained to hold weapons, not people, now trembled as they pressed against his bleeding wound. "This is not happening," she whispered. "No, not you." She pulled him to the couch and grabbed everything she could: cloth, herbs from the forest, pieces of human medicine. Her fingers moved fast, her heart moved faster. Ryan groaned weakly. "You're good at this." She ignored him. "You talk too much," she snapped. "Save your strength." But her voice cracked. Because for the first time in her life, she was scared, not for herself, but for him. An hour passed. She stayed by his side, cleaning the wound, stopping the bleeding, whispering strange warrior prayers in a language he didn't understand. Ryan drifted in and out of sleep. Once he opened his eyes and said, "You're crying." She blinked, touched her cheek. Wet. She hadn't even noticed. "I don't cry," she said softly. He smiled weakly. "Then someone else must have taken your place." She looked away, ashamed, confused, angry at the world for making her feel so human. As night fell, the rain returned. Thalira sat beside him, her hand still holding his. She had faced death many times. She had walked over the bodies of enemies and comrades alike. She had never stopped for tears. But now, with this one broken, human, she wept. Not loudly, not with screams, just quiet, painful drops falling down her face. She whispered, "Why did you help me?" Ryan's voice was barely a whisper. "Because you needed someone. You could have run. But then who would have made you breakfast?" A small laugh escaped her lips. "Even now," he joked. "Even now he gave her strength." That night she didn't sleep. She sat beside him, watching every breath. Her hands never left his. The house was silent, except for the soft sound of rain on the roof. She thought of her old squad, her commander, her training. She thought of the Corral motto: "Pain is power. Mercy is weakness." But mercy had saved her. And now, it might be the only thing keeping Ryan alive. In the early hours of dawn, Ryan opened his eyes. Weak, but alive. Thalira almost collapsed with relief. "You stubborn man," she whispered. He smiled. "Still here." She squeezed his hand. "Don't do that again. No promises." She leaned her head against his shoulder. "I thought I had no heart," she said softly. "I guess you just needed someone to find it." The morning sun rose over the hills. The storm had passed, but something new had arrived inside Thalira, something no war had ever taught her. Love. Not just for Ryan, but for life, for peace, for the world she once tried to destroy. Outside, the forest was quiet again, but high above Earth in orbit, another threat moved closer. The Corral Empire had not forgotten, and they would not forgive. But this time, Thalira would not face them as a soldier. She would face them as something far more dangerous. A warrior with something to protect. The sky wasn't supposed to glow red at dawn. But it did. Thalira felt the change before she even looked up. It was in the wind, in the pressure of the air, in the way birds suddenly stopped singing and animals vanished into silence. She stepped outside, barefoot in the wet grass, staring at the sky. And there it was, a Corral warship, massive, silent, hovering above Earth. Inside, Ryan was awake, still recovering on the couch. His wound was healing, but he wasn't strong yet. When he saw her face through the window, pale, alert, he knew something was wrong. He forced himself up. "What is it?" Thalira didn't blink. Her voice was ice. They're here. The Empire, she nodded. Why? They've come for me. Suddenly, a voice echoed through the clouds. Deep, mechanical, powerful, K-Rawl warrior Thalira. You have broken code, abandoned duty, tainted your blood. Return, or Earth will fall. Ryan froze. Did they just threaten the entire planet? Thalira turned to him. Yes, and they mean it. She walked to the center of the field, looking up at the warship that now blocked the morning sun. She could almost hear the voices of her old commanders in her head. K'ral do not disobey. Loyalty before life. Weakness will be punished. She took a deep breath, then shouted at the sky, I am no longer yours. There was silence, then a cold reply. Then you are nothing. Ryan limped to her side. You don't have to face them alone. She looked at him. You're still healing. I'd rather die with you than hide while they burn everything. Down! Her heart clenched. This man, this weak, fragile human, stronger than any K'ral she ever knew. Suddenly, beams of red light shot from the ship. Fields burned. Trees exploded. The attack had begun. Thalira ran back into the house and grabbed the metal pipe, the same one Ryan used to hit Grathak. She had sharpened it into a weapon, not perfect, but it would do. She turned to Ryan. Hide underground. Wait for my signal. He shook his head. I'll fight. You will die. And if I hide, I'll still lose you. She stared at him. Then, against every law of her old life, she leaned forward and kissed him, quick, desperate, real. Then fight beside me, she said. But follow my lead. Together they ran toward the edge of the forest where K'ral scouts had landed, tall creatures in black armor, scanning everything with glowing visors. Thalira attacked first, swift and silent, using her pipe like a blade, striking pressure points only a K'ral warrior would know. Ryan followed, swinging with all his strength. They moved like one body, man and alien, past and present, warrior and protector. Suddenly, the sky lit up again. A message was broadcast across all devices. A K'ral commander, face covered in metal, appeared. This is your final warning, Thalira. Surrender, or your human pet dies next. Thalira's hands shook with rage. She lifted a stolen K'ral weapon and spoke into it. Come for him, and I'll remind the galaxy what a real K'ral warrior can do. Inside, Ryan was back on the ground, catching his breath. He looked at her with pain, pride, and something more. You don't have to fight for me, he said. I'm not, she replied. I'm fighting for everything you've shown me. That night, the stars watched silently from above, and Earth prepared for war. But this time, Earth wasn't alone, because one K'ral warrior had chosen love over loyalty, and her heart burned brighter than any warship in the sky. The battlefield was no longer on alien soil. It was now Earth. Fields once full of flowers now burned. Skies once blue were filled with smoke and fire. But in the middle of it all stood Thalira, no longer in armor, but stronger than she had ever been. She held a stolen K'ral staff in one hand, Ryan's trembling but ready fingers in the other. This was her final stand, not as a K'ral soldier, not as a traitor, but as a protector. The K'ral warship opened its side gates. Hundreds of warriors descended, black armor, red visors, precision. Ryan gasped. There's too many. Thalira didn't blink. Then we take down as many as we can, and if we fall with fire. Ryan looked at her, his voice shaking. I'm not ready to die. She turned to him. Then live. For me. For everything we fought for. She kissed his forehead quickly. I will buy you time. He grabbed her wrist. No. We fight together. The first wave hit. Thalira moved like a shadow, spinning, dodging, striking. Her pipe cut through the air like a sword. She aimed at joints, weak spots only she knew from years in battle. Ryan fought beside her, clumsy but brave. He protected her back. She protected his heart. They became a storm, but numbers were too many. Thalira was knocked down, wounded. Crawl blade raised above her chest. Ryan screamed and ran toward her. Just before the blade fell, a blast of white light exploded. The Corral attacker was thrown backward. Behind him stood an old ship, rusty, small, and Earth-made. From it stepped Earth resistance fighters, humans who still believed in standing tall. One of them shouted, "We saw the ship. Knew something was wrong. Who's in charge here?" Ryan pointed to Thalira. "She is." The battlefield turned. Humans rallied. Old weapons were powered up. Drones launched. EMP grenades fell from the skies, and Thalira rose again, bleeding, but unbroken. She looked to the warship where the Corral commander watched from above. She grabbed a fallen Corral radio and roared, "I am Thalira of Corral blood, reborn on Earth soil. You called me traitor. I call myself free." Then she tossed a tracker device Ryan had found earlier, straight into the sky. It latched onto the warship hull. Ryan pressed the button on his arm. Boom! A massive explosion lit the heavens. The Corral ship began to fall, flames pouring from its side. The remaining invaders panicked, retreating back to their transports. When the smoke cleared, silence. And in that silence, birds returned. The wind carried peace. The battle was over. Thalira dropped to her knees. Ryan caught her. "You did it," he whispered. "No," she replied. "We did." He smiled. "So, what now?" She looked up at the sky, no longer red. "I stay. You're not going back to your people." She shook her head. "They were never my people." "Not really." He held her tighter. "And I—" She looked into his eyes, her voice soft. "You're my home now." Days passed. The world began to heal. News spread of an alien warrior who saved a human town from destruction. Some feared her, some praised her, but most were simply curious. She didn't care. All that mattered was Ryan. Alive, smiling, holding her hand as they walked through their garden. One evening, she stood before the same mirror from before. This time, she didn't see a killer. She saw a woman. Scarred, changed, loved, and as Ryan entered the room behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist, she whispered, "The warrior died that day, on the battlefield. But someone new was born, and she chose love."